Hello, everyone. It is Friday before the 118th Millrose games in New York City at the Armory. It's going to be a great meet, one of the highlights of every indoor season, and especially this year, one of the best two-mile fields we've ever seen indoors. Heck, any distance race indoors. Cole Hocker, Grant Fisher, Josh Kerr, Jake Whiteman, Ethan Strand, Jordy Beamish. So many big names in that one. We've got a great Wanamaker Miles as well with Yared Nuguse, Kessler, and Cam Myers. Jane Hedengren against Doris Lemngole. Cooper Lutkenhaus is running. Donovan Brazier. Mid-distance and distance stars galore. And we are here to preview it, give you some insight from our boots on the ground, Let's Run correspondent, and talk all things Millrose games. This is Jonathan Golt. I am joined by Let'sRun.com co-founder Robert Johnson. Weldon Johnson is planning on joining us midway through. And in New York, fresh from the pre-race press conference this morning, is Noah Jampol, a.k.a. Thoughts Leader, the esteemed message board poster. Gentlemen, good afternoon. And Noah, let's get started. Like, how was the presser?
It was good. Good attendance. A lot of stars in attendance there. Big contenders in the 2 mile, but also Wanamaker Mile, and then got to speak with Jessica Hull as well. So, and Brazier. So yeah, good group out there, and just got me more excited for some of the big mid distance and distance races that we have on hand here.
Rojo, how are you feeling right now? We're little over 48 hours out from the meet. There's no football on Sunday for the first time since like August, so everyone's going to be hyped up for this thing. We're going to get like AFC Championship level ratings on NBC, right?
No football here in Baltimore, unfortunately, for a few weeks. I'm excited. I said, screw it, we'll do it live. We'll do it live. This is a special live edition of the Let'sRun.com Track Talk Friday 15 podcast. Normally, this is exclusively our Supporters Club members, but every once in a while, big meet, we go live. It was like 2 minutes. I'm like, why don't we do it live? We did not promote it. Weldon is the one who knows how to promote it on the homepage and do the pop-up. But no, I mean, we ought to have Let's Run visitor Ralph on here because he came up with this stat that was absolutely amazing. Like, is this the greatest indoor race ever run, the men's 2 mile? Like, he looked at every world indoors in history, every Millrose, I think, since 1980 at the distance events. And he's like, okay, this race has 4 global outdoor champions. Has any race ever had that? And the most that he ever found was a race. The answer was no. He found one race that had 3. And that was, I think, the 2006 indoors. By the way, I found footage of that last night. How much fun was that to watch? That race to watch. You got Elliott Kipchoge, Shaheen, the all-timer in the steeplechase, and then Kenenisa Bekele. It was unreal. So
yeah, I mean, those 3 champions, Robert, and also 3 guys who between them would at some point hold world records in the 5K, 10K, steeple, and marathon outdoors. So yeah, 3 legends.
And this one has 4 outdoor global champions: Jordy Beamish, Josh Kerr, Cole Hocker, and
Whiteman.
And Jake Whiteman. Plus, the crazy thing is, well, I guess some of those guys ran in the NCAA. So there's 8 other guys from the NCAA that did collegiate time in the NCAA in this race. And so there's 11 guys who ran NCAA in this race. All 11 were NCAA champions. And then there's like 1 or 2 other people like Drew Hunter and I don't know who. It's just insane how good this race is.
Yeah.
So awesome. No, was anybody from the 2 mile there? What at the press event? I mean, I think that one of the concerns that people have is, they're like, it's called the Arcadia effect. They're talking about high school running, that there's so many good runners that they won't push the pace.
Yeah. I mean, there were 3 of them, I think. So it was Josh, Kerr, Cole Hocker, and Grant. I think it was interesting. Grant was asked how many guys he thought would go, if he had to set an over-under, how many guys would go under 8. And he only said 1.5 as his over-under one, which seems kind of low to me. I think he has some healthy respect for how fast it is. But I think the plan from Grant, and I asked him about the rabbiting and things like that, is I think him and his coach are thinking, Mike Scannell are thinking similarly to last year, they want the guy to go obviously as far as possible and as fast. Like last year, I think they really credited Pacer for getting there. I think it was almost 2,000 meters at, sub 27:30 pace, well under that. So this year, I think the idea, which might help with your idea, that it would be kind of like the Arcadia effect. If they get someone who's willing to hit 359, 358, that will probably keep the field spread enough. And I think that's what they're aiming for. And I think that's what the pace lights are set for. So I would expect if everyone, at least a few guys are going to go on that pace right on 4 minutes, maybe a little under.
Yeah, I mean, I expect a fast race just because we've seen Grant Fisher run these races before. And when he's up against guys with big kicks, he will generally try to draw that kick out of them. That's how he won last year against Cole Hocker. He tried to do it last week against Hobbs Kessler in Boston. Didn't work. That was a 2K. This is a 2 mile, so you got 6 extra laps. But Grant Fisher doesn't like losing, and I think he'd be foolish to allow it to come down to a kick when you've got Beamish, Hocker, and Kerr all in this race. Even Jake Whiteman, but he's probably not. His kick isn't probably quite as sharp right now. I just think that's the way he wins, is getting a world record or very close to it.
Yeah, and Cole basically said the same thing, where what he expects out of Grant Fisher is to make it fast and try to run the legs out of him. And he said basically that's why he lost last year. He thought a lot of it was that Grant had made it fast enough that when he made his move, he just didn't have the gas at the end to finish the job.
I mean, the more I think about it, I'm not worried about going tactical. I think somebody will break 8 in this race. I think that at some level does. I don't think Grant really cares too much. I mean, he wants to win, but right? I think, his best bet is to try to push the pace, break these guys from the front, and get 8. But I think a lot of it's just also to put up the time. Say you're sub 8 2 minute 2 miler. Like that was what was crazy about last year's race was Fisher was doing most of the work once the rabbit stopped, but then Cole Hocker took it over from Fisher, which shocked me. Now, I could see a scenario this year where, I mean, if you're at a mile and a half, like if I'm Hocker, why would I do that this year? I would just sit and then try to blow by them. So I guess it could slow down. It is that, that one stretch that, it's that there's always that 400, 800 meter stretch where if it slows down, then you might throw sub 8 out the window. But I mean, people on the message board were going crazy and saying 7:52. One guy had like 6 guys under 8. I mean, some of this stuff seemed, insanity. So last year in the 3,000 meters, I think it's important to understand sort of equivalent times. Grant Fisher ran 7:22.81. According to John Kellogg's 1.0804 conversion, that's a 7:58.41 2 mile. If you're looking at 8 flat, that's 7:24. So clearly, I think that we saw it last year. He's in the fitness to break 8. If anything, I think.
Well, he was last year.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I would guess Fisher maybe isn't quite as fit right now as he was last year, just because he missed some time in the fall.
Okay. Even though he broke the 2K world record last year. Anyways.
That's 2K world record is not as impressive as the 3K he ran last year.
All right, let's talk about that. That was interesting. John Kellogg, I had him convert Hobbs Kessler's 4:48. Isn't that, God, that's fast. 4:48 2K world record to the 2 mile. Well, actually, I'll convert it to the mile. The mile makes it sound most impressive. He converts it to the mile. He's got 3:45.87. I'm like, oh my God, that's fast. But then I said, John, convert it to the 2 mile. And he's like, it's only an 8:02.95. And I'm like, that seems crazy. He's like, well, no, because, like Jakob could run like 9 seconds faster than that. Jakob's 7:54 world record in the 2 mile is equal to a 7:18, and his 7:17 is equal to a 7:53 2 mile. So John's like, yeah, I have that equivalent to like a 3:40. Would you have it in the mile, John? Yeah, 3:41 in the mile, 3:24 high in 1,500. I mean, it's just crazy some of these times.
He had it equivalent to a 3:24.
3:24.9. which seems right? I mean, he beat Coleman.
No, because Reynolds Chariot ran a 4:48 flat. I want to say.
No. We're not talking about that. We're talking
I know,
about
but just in general,
I just don't. I
2K
think the 3K world record's worth like a full second faster than the current 1500 world record, which hasn't been touched for 27 years.
Yeah.
I don't know if I buy that.
I don't know. Think about it this way. Bekele 720 was one of the all-time great records. Everybody acknowledged it, and Yared beat it by 3 seconds. So you don't think that's the equivalent of beating the 1500 meter record by 1.1 seconds? I definitely think that there's plenty of guys that could run 325 if you had the pacing. And let's talk about that.
I mean, don't know about that either.
Anyways, look, is it not weird? I tried to post this in the message board. I think there's so many people talking about Millrose, I'm having trouble posting. But look, every day, and I keep debating whether I should start an AI-focused website, but we have these tech geniuses or a-holes, however you want to respond to them, and they're like, look, this new computer, we're about to wipe out 50% of all white-collar jobs in the next 5 years. And they're bragging about it, how good technology is. I'm like, so we have this transformational technology, yet we won't let a machine just rabbit this race the whole way. Like, wouldn't it, instead of like having to pay rabbits, waste all this money, wouldn't it be very easy to have a little thing on wheels and have it go around the track and say, all right, we're going to put this baby at 7:55 pace. We're going to run 3:57.5 for the mile, and then we're going to keep going. And we don't have to worry about the rabbits. We don't have to worry about the pace. I mean, it's no different than, it's just like the pace light, but
That's the pace light does.
Say that, Robert. We have this invention. It's been around for years. It's called wave light. Like, how is this any different?
It's not blocking the wind. It's not.
So what is your thing going to look like?
What?
Your thing's just like some motorized shield or something running in front of them? What are you pitching here?
It's a little thing on wheels, and it goes up about 6 feet tall, so it does the same wind resistance as a human being. Plus, they have something to really just they can just look down and see the wheels. They don't have to look over to the left. When the high jumpers are in the way and there's no wave light, they don't have to worry about that. Or fine, if you don't like the robot, I think some of this tech stuff is overhyped. How about just letting the rabbit hop in and hop out?
I mean, yeah, maybe that's more reasonable. I don't like this robot. It's like thinking about Kip Limo, the world record in the half marathon. Everyone's complaining about this clown car that was maybe creating a wind tunnel. That world record, by the way, still hasn't been ratified. We're almost a year later. But I don't really like that. I don't like creating this artificial conditions. And you can argue, pace lights are already artificial. But that, to me, having this robot runner, and then also, does this technology even exist? What happens when they get lapped? What if it malfunctions? I just think this is a silly solution to a problem we don't really need.
So we can have self-driving cars bring me home drunk from the bar, but we can't even figure out how to get a robot to go around in a perfect circle. We're going to wipe out all jobs, but John thinks the robot can't do this.
I would argue that like cutting out drunk driving deaths is much more important than like marginally improving on track and field world records. Anyway, Robert, I have a different argument I want to get into with you. So can we move to this one?
By the way, we have Jordan Donnelly, one of Andrews Almgren's coaches. He's in the Nairobi airport listening to the show. I agree. Give me some criticism. Rojo's big idea on how to kill the sport of racing. I agree. I actually think, well, I don't know, man. I complain that there's too many rabbit races. I thought maybe we should have, a world record. It's just an absolute time trial where it's you against the clock, one person, kind of like the Tour de France when they had the time, just you against the clock. There's no rabbits. None of that's allowed. And it's on you, or having machines everywhere because there's too much traffic. Anyways,
see what I like about these are that if we get a world record at Millrose, usually it's a product of good racing. That's what we saw with Kerr and Hocker. Sorry, Kerr and Fisher in 2024 when Kerr broke the 2 mile world record at Millrose. It's what we saw with Kerr and with Hocker and Fisher last year. So, sub 8 2 mile indoors. It's never been done. That'd be kind of fun to see, but I'm most interested in just seeing who wins this race. And there are so many potential candidates. So that's what's exciting me. But Robert, I have a bone to pick with you because in my initial preview for this race, I came down to...
Hey.
What?
Let's ask Noah. Let me phrase this for Noah. I know where you're going here.
Okay.
John and I had people think I don't do much around here. John writes these brilliant articles. His 2 mile preview of Millrose is a piece of art. Thanks to Ralph Stats, big part of that. So thank you, Ralph. And I'll edit it. But every once in a while, I think I make some good edits. And I'm reading this piece, and there's a line in there, and it's a good thing I wasn't like drinking milk or something. I would have spit it out. I was like, wow, I can't believe he wrote this. It's a good thing that I editing this out. John would be embarrassed. So the line, do you have the actual line, John? Or should I just
look? The line was essentially that Cole Hocker and Josh Kerr have similar resumes, like very similar, I would argue. Do you agree with that statement, Noah?
You know what? I'll say yes.
Look, this is like Hall of Fame voting. When it takes you that long and you have to analyze it and hesitate it, that means no.
He took 2 seconds to come up with a full response instead of just a knee-jerk hot take, which is what you're looking for.
Is Bill Belichick a Hall of Famer? The answer is yes, and he should be in instantly. It's like if they have the same resumes. So I was willing to say, if you ignore the fact that one has a Olympic gold medal and one doesn't, they have very similar resumes. They actually, if you're counting the Olympics and the Worlds as the same, the resumes are extremely similar, right? In the sense of they both are former NCAA champions. They both have 1 global gold in the 1500. Well, John,
well, actually, Robert, you say NCAA champions. They are both 3-time NCAA champions. They both have a global gold in the 1500, Kerr at Worlds and Hocker at the Olympics. Kerr has a global outdoor title in the 5K last year. Josh Kerr does not have a second global outdoor title, but he does have a world indoor title from 2024. And the field he beat there, he beat Brager and a very informed Nuguse in that race. Like it's actually not that far off the field Hocker beat in Tokyo last year for gold. And then the other thing is, Kerr has also got an Olympic silver and an Olympic bronze. He has 3 medals in the 1500. Hocker only has 1 outdoors. Now, it is the biggest one of all, but that race in Paris, Josh Kerr was 1.14 of a second behind Cole Hocker. They both ran 3:27. That to me is similar resume. Like Roberts, when we're having this phone call the other day, Robert's acting like just because Cole Hocker beat Josh Kerr by 1/10 of a second at the Olympics, that he's on a completely different plane of existence. I just find that ludicrous.
This is the laughable thing. No, are you hearing what he's saying? He's saying like because he thinks that because Josh Kerr was close to Cole Hocker in the 1500, that he almost won. It doesn't matter. Like that's like saying, like my argument that Noah Lyles was never going to win the Olympics. He barely beat Keyshawn Thompson. No, it doesn't matter. He forever is the Olympic champion, and no one remembers Keyshawn Thompson being close.
For the last year on this podcast, you've said my prediction was almost true. It was very close.
I know, but it doesn't count.
5,000ths of a second.
It doesn't count that you're almost as hand grenades and whatever. The girl almost went home with me, but she didn't. I mean, that doesn't matter.
Look, the question at issue is whether Cole Hocker and Josh Kerr have similar resumes. They do. That's really that's it.
And let me. And you also, it was interesting. You compared. You dinged. One reason why I would say this that they don't have similar resumes is in terms of actual medals and stuff like that. Is trying to get the. I don't know how to do the thing. I like it when the 3 of us are the same size. On the same row on the live show. Weldon figured that out. But one other reason why they didn't. I didn't think it's the same as. Well, you made a good point of saying that Hocker's 5,000 field was really watered down when he won that. It wasn't that good, and Josh Kerr's 3,000 field might have been just as good as that 5,000 field. That's one thing, but we don't value indoors the same as outdoors. I wish we did. Another thing that's totally being ignored in this argument is Hocker is a multi-event guy. He can run the 1,500 and the 5,000. His NCAA titles, he won the 1,500 and the 3,000 at the same goddamn NCAAs while he was tired. Cooper Cuber's sitting there fresh all day, and he still smoked in the 3,000. So it's like, no, like one guy is a 1,500 meter specialist who has never won the Olympics. One guy is a 1,500, 5,000 gold medalist who has also won the 5,000. I'm sorry, Josh. You need to win the Olympics to have this argument.
It's great debate. When you first proposed it, I was like, why was there so much to talk about? Now I realize it gets into so many layers. And the thing that you have to consider is that Cole is basically 2 years as a pro that matter, and Josh has like 4 or 5. And it's just like whether you care about Cole Hocker when he's there has been like a world beater in the 2 years that he's been healthy and good as a pro. Kerr has been more consistent, but then also has not had the same dominance at the championship level, if you want to call it that way. And I think it's an impossible answer. I'd rather have Cole Hocker's accolades personally.
I would too. He's got a stronger resume. I do concede that fact. And I do think by the time they both retire, I mean, Hocker is 4 years younger, so I expect him to have a superior resume. I will say, I mean, Cole Hocker has finished in the top 5 in a global 1500 final once in his entire life. Josh Kerr has done that 4 times. Josh Kerr has won multiple Diamond Leagues. Like, Kerr does have the edge in a couple areas, but like overall, Hocker, the Olympic gold is the ultimate trump card. Weldon, did you catch any of this debate? Am I totally off base here? Where do you stand?
I was wondering if people watching at home can tell I'm not Robert. I slaughtered him off.
The old
Put me
twin
in here.
switcheroo.
Okay, are we debating who's the favorite for this race or who has the better resume?
We're debating whether they have similar resumes.
Similar to the layman, but to the average person on the street, it's no comparison. Cole Hocker's way better.
I'm not talking to the average person in the street. This is the Let'sRun.com Track Talk podcast.
John, it doesn't matter. Cole Hocker has an Olympic gold medal.
Okay, you guys are the ones who, if this was an NFL show, you'd just be like, well, this guy won a Super Bowl and this guy hasn't, so that's rings culture. That's the argument here.
We have again our top coach here. Hocker.
The last 2 years the last 2 years, Cole Hocker's won the biggest races he's been in. Okay.
Well, actually, I mean, you could argue the last year, Cole Hocker didn't even qualify for the biggest race he should have been in.
Fine. He was prevented by an official's decision, controversial call from doing.
After putting himself in bad tactical position. I'm not a Cole Hocker hater. Like, I have tons of respect for the guy. He's amazing, and he's so fun to watch race. I just think, like, acting like him and Josh Kerr are 2 different species is ridiculous. They're very similar.
What did Kerr do in 2022?
Can y'all hear me?
Oh, 2022, he celebrated getting the Olympic bronze too much and just didn't have a good season. He ended up 5th at Worlds, I think.
And I thought it was preposterous that John was making Kerr the favorite in this race. He hasn't raced. He limped off the track, but then John loves eating up the coaches, give him stuff, and I trusted Danny Mackey. And I guess Kerr's coming here hot the last 2 years. So, yeah, I guess it. But this is the sickest indoor 2 mile ever. I mean, this thing is so crazy. Like, Parker Wolf was just sort of dismissed. I'm like, wait, at one point I was wondering if Parker Wolf could win this thing. Ethan Strand. I mean, it's like, okay, no. So I think your 2 favorites have to be. Oh, can we just totally dismiss Fisher though? Actually, I'm kind of curious. I was thinking it had to be Hocker or Kerr, but Grant Fisher just ran way faster than Cole Hocker at 2K.
Yeah, but he had a pacer for a mile of it and pace lights, and Cole Hocker did it on a random Friday afternoon in Blacksburg, Virginia.
Was there pacers for that one at all?
1200.
Yeah, he had that good 800 guy.
They're like,
but I can't remember. That's got to be a bank track though, right? I saw it.
It is.
Yeah.
One note on that, he did say that it is at 2,200 feet altitude, and he does think that it does slow you down. I know that doesn't do anything for conversions, but he's like, he was impressed by the time because of that.
But wait, Weldon, you just listed off a number of potential winners, and you didn't mention the name Georgie Beamish once.
No. Not possible.
Why not? Just because you think it's going to be a fast race?
It's going to be fast.
Yeah. That is.
But I guess he just hangs close enough.
Yeah, but like,
the problem is sometimes with these races, when there's too many people, somehow the pace is more likely to fall apart. It doesn't really make sense, but
no. I mean, I'm not worried about him being like 5th at the bell if it's a slower pace. I'm worried about him just getting dropped like he did in the 2 mile at Millrose 2 years ago. That's why I only had him 5th. Like if you told me, hey, the winning time is going to be 8:10, I'd probably pick Beamish as my favorite, but I don't think that's going to be the case.
Yeah, there's the comment here. What time does it have to be for automatic Beamish win? 8:05 or above. I mean,
Yeah,
actually, 8:05 would be
That's
pretty
from
good
the
for
coffee
Beamish.
club manager there. So
Yeah.
OAC guy.
But all right, so here's my rationale. Weldon, I was not swayed by Danny Mackey's comments. I actually already had Josh as the favorite in my mind, but I'm like, wait a minute. This guy, the last I saw, he was limping around the track in the Olympic Stadium in Tokyo. Like, I just got to check out, is everything going okay? And, that's why I called up Danny. I'm like, how has his training been going? Has he been all right? He said, yeah, he had to do a little pool work. And then, he got going again and running in November. And sounds like his recent workouts have been pretty good. But my logic is essentially regular season Cole Hocker, the last 2 years at least, has been a different guy than championship Cole Hocker. And Millrose last year, regular season Cole Hocker was still exceptional. I mean, he still ran 7:23. Like, he would have won it without an all-time effort from Fisher. So maybe I'm discounting him a little bit, but would I be surprised at all if Cole Hocker just shows up, hey, there's no championship to peak for this year. I'm just going to approach things a little bit differently. Hey, here's that amazing kick that I've always had, and I'm a little sharper this time around. I would not be stunned by that at all. He's clearly a serious contender to win. And Noah, maybe he is approaching this season a little bit like that. You mentioned he sort of discussed the possibility of a world record attempt in the mile in a couple of weeks. What did he have to say today?
Yeah, he was asked about that, whether he obviously last year he was under the world record in the 3K, didn't get it because Grant beat him, but it seems like he's open to a little bit more time chasing this year. He talked about that outdoors and indoors. And I think when you're talking about peaking for Cole Hocker, I think you got to look at when his next championship race is, and it's World Indoors. So that's, 6 weeks away, 7 weeks away, something like that. So it's not like it's on the doorstep, but I think what we've seen when he runs Millrose and these races, it's actually closer. We can't really compare it to like Grand Slam or something like last year where he has about 12 weeks or something crazy. Like, think about what shape he was in probably in August or late July, mid-July, as opposed to, because the indoor season's a little more compressed. So from what I heard from him, I think he's in really good shape, and also not like he's approaching this year as more of a chance to run fast, though he says, just like kind of Jakob said before, he values his career in terms of medals. So he talked about World Indoors as one, and I think World Ultimate would count the same for him as well. So those will probably be the ones where you can expect the best fitness, but I would not count him out in this one because I think we're close enough to World Indoors that, well, he's not going to be in tip-top shape. I think he's going to be similar to last year.
Okay. Yeah, I see that because, what we would see the last 2 years is that the Olympic trials in 2024, right? He showed he was really fit, but then he did make another leap in like the 6 weeks between the trials and the Olympics. And then last year, same thing. He won the 5K at USA's and then made another leap in fitness between the Worlds and the World Championships. The difference is we were 6 weeks out from Worlds, or maybe a little less than that at USA's last year, and he was only third in the 1500. So I am curious, like, is someone like Ethan Strand going to have a little sharper kick? Like, I think Ethan Strand could win this race because I think about him. The analogy I'm going to use here is Yared Nuguse. Both of these guys set NCAA records in the 3,000 meters while they were in college. And both of them were NCAA individual champions. Both of them finished second in their final NCAA 1,500 meter appearance. And then both of them go from training for 4 years, in a college system, to now they're moving out west to altitude and having this new stimulus. So we saw the leap that Yared Nuguse made from 22 being, really good in the US to 23 being one of the very best in the world in the 1,500. And that was because he didn't have to worry about going to class anymore, and he was out in altitude at Boulder. I'm wondering if Ethan Strand, who, like Nuguse, made a US team while still in college, could he do the same thing? He's now at Flagstaff, and he goes from being one of the best in the US to suddenly one of the best in the world this year. Obviously, it's not a given, but my gears are turning here.
Yeah, I mean, I think his performance at World Cross Country was really good. it sounds like that didn't go out super fast, but he easily outkicked Reynald Chariot, who's a good cross-country runner and bronze medalist in the 1500. So definitely in shape. And my only concern with him will be just this thing is going to be so fast, and his positioning has always been sometimes a little bit questionable. So is he going to get stuck back too far, even with his kick, to beat out the likes of Cole or Kerr?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just the positioning; it's the timing of it, right?
Yeah.
Some of these guys, Rose running here 69, like, sometimes he went too early at NCAA indoors last year in the DMR, and that cost him the win. But he got his timing right in the 3K, and he was the dominant champion. So that's something. He's younger in his career than some of these other guys are. It's going to be interesting. Can he time it up right? But I do think he's a contender for the win on Sunday.
It's kind of crazy. I'm looking at the Jordy Beamish's World Athletics page. They rank his best performance ever as his 8:05 at Millrose. Then it's a 13:04. He doesn't have fast times, so this is his sweet spot. I mean, the issue with Strand is he's only run 7:30, but at the time, last year, what was his PB when he ran that for 1500? He wasn't a 3:30 guy. He got so much better at the end of the year, or at least started showing that. So.
Well, and he closed that 7:30 in a 26 for his last lap. I think, I'm not saying he can, if it's if it's an 8 flat race or a 7:59 race, is he still going to be able to close in 26? I'm not sure, but he's been able to kick pretty hard off a fast pace.
Jordan Donnelly, who knows the thing about running, helps coach Almgren, says, Strand versus Hocker is a race. Grant will rabbit. They'll blow his doors off. Kerr is not fit enough. I could see that as being a scenario.
I mean, Kerr, he did seem pretty confident today, and it's worth noting that his Millrose past history, we've kind of gotten inklings that it hasn't generally been the smoothest, even though he's run these great races. It sounded like things had been good since starting up in November. That's a little bit shorter than maybe ideal, and maybe what the Hocker and Fisher and all the other guys. So, or maybe not Fisher, actually. He had the short break build up as well. So, but I think the thing with Kerr is this is going to be so honest and so fast potentially that maybe that is a good. Jordan Donnelly is correct on that. I could see that.
I could see it, but also the last couple of years, Kerr has just come in and delivered. He circles this meet, and he's just hey, this is why I am who I am. He's super confident. So this race is it's great though. And I love that we're having it early in the season because there are just question marks about a lot of these guys. Someone might have gone up a level and we just aren't aware about it, and we'll see it on Sunday. And then you've got the established stars, and even someone like Hocker. This would be Cole Hocker's biggest win ever outside of an actual championship race. So that would be, a fun little thing to have. And maybe that he starts changing the narrative a little bit, that he only excels in championships, which again is a pretty nice narrative to have about your career anyway. All right. Any final thoughts on this one, guys, before we move to the rest of the meet?
I thought it was interesting. Fisher, I asked him for a dark horse, and he said Habtum Samuel, which would be interesting if he manages. I wouldn't expect him to win, but there is some scenario where Habtum Samuel sticks with the front guys, and we see him run some crazy time. I could see that potentially. So I don't think he'd win, but he might run closer to 8 minutes than we thought possible.
I wonder if he's buttering up Habtum to have him help out with the pacing if he needs it.
Also possible. Yeah.
Okay, someone in the comments here, do not sleep on Drew Hunter. Okay, if Drew Hunter wins this race, his career is radically changed. And there's even the comment here. I mean, Jordy Beamish is a 2-time world champion. And someone says, if Beamish, C.S. Martin says, if Beamish does win a fast race, how do you guys view him moving forward? It would just change my perception amazingly. I'm I would expect this guy to maybe smash the world record in the steeplechase. It would be pretty much.
He basically becomes El Bacali then, right?
Yeah, he becomes El Bacali, and I would expect just it would just be transformational.
Well, I would also say
that's crazy, just because he's a 2-time world champion. But if he could win a fast race, it's crazy. It would be nuts.
If he could run a fast race, I might say pull a Jenny Simpson and go in the 1500. He's already won the global title in the steeple. Maybe spend this year trying to break 8 in the steeple, and then go down to the 1500 and try to beat those guys. It would open up so many options for him.
Yeah, I mean, I know like prominent steeplers are like, no, this guy's not going to run under 805. They just don't see him as being fast. You know, he's run like what the 805. What is that? That's under probably 730 for 3K though. I see why that is his best mark. What would that come out to be? I'm not even sure, but that's a really good mark. He's run 1304, but 1304 these days is nothing.
Okay, let's talk about this Wanamaker Mile, the final event of the meet. We got a world record last year from Yared Nuguse. Hobbs Kessler was also under the old record. Both of them ran 346. The world record is now 354.14 by Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Both of those men are back. We've also got Cam Myers, who looked great in Boston last week, winning the 3K. We've got Robert Farkin, who was 6th at Worlds last year. Festus Lagat, who ran 329.0 last year. Gary Martin, the NCAA runner-up in the 3K and anchored the DMR to win the win last year for Virginia. Andrew Koskeren, Ollie Hoare, Nico Young. We kind of talked about this a little bit on the regular podcast. I think I've changed my mind. On that one, I thought that Yared Nuguse was the favorite. Now I think I'm leaning more towards Hobbs Kessler. Just the more I think about how good he looked last week and how he's been kind of closing the gap on Nuguse at Millrose the last 2 years. He beat him at USA's last year. Or is Cam Myers just going to come in and beat both of them? But like, I feel like a gunpoint right now, if you had to tell me who's going to win, I think I would go with Kessler. What do you guys think?
I definitely get that. That was a really impressive 2K. I think the time's a little bit, again, I think I read still Reynolds Chariot ran 448 when he was kind of a 330 guy. So I think it's basically shows he's in 329 shape, which probably around where we think he is, or 346 mile. I think the thing with Kessler is it seems like he might have unlocked a little bit in terms of his change of gears and kick and confidence to do so. And I think the reason the Goose has beat him last year was he couldn't get by him. He's a little tentative. He's a little not ready to just blow by him, which is what you need to do on this indoor track. So I think this year that's not going to be the problem. And if Nuguse is going to beat him, it's going to have to be just being a little bit like from the front, just being a little fitter, maybe having to come back at him in the last 50, something like that. Because I do think Kessler's going to get to the lead at some point. And then the Myers thing is interesting because in past years, I haven't really seen the kick necessarily be a huge part of his game, but he did do a pretty impressive job in that 3K, and maybe just another year of maturity and like getting better. That's now a part of his arsenal, in which case, you know, if he can, even if it takes a little long time to get going, if he runs that last 300, like it seems like he's in the fitness to do, maybe he can beat both of them.
Yeah, I'm still not certain. I think we're going to get some answers about Cam Myers' kick in this race. But I just think that it wasn't just the time that Kessler ran in the 2K, even though it was a world record. It was that he closed in 26 point and 13.0 for his last 100. And that, to me, that's how you win these big mile races, is you have like a really great change of gear, like you said, Noah. So that, I think, is why he's the favorite, because I'm just not convinced that Nuguse is going to be able to go 345 from the front to, you know, hold him off and win this thing. Weldon, who do you have as the favorite in the Wanamaker Mile?
I think for all these things, I have recency bias. So you've raced, I just slot you harder, but I shouldn't, because Nuguse comes in here every year and does great. But I'm going to go with Kessler. I'm not ruling out Myers. And I was thinking about Gary Martin just separately. I was like, he's so good and all around, but like right now, like, one, he's not quite as fast as these other guys, but they've had more of a kick. Like it's just such a tough time to be an American distance runner right now. Exciting, but tough. I mean, Nico Young is in here. I'm kind of curious how fast he can run.
Yeah, he's run 350 on the UW track in Seattle. So it's going to be kind of interesting distance for him, because he obviously didn't run that well at World Cross Country. So how does he rebound from that race? But yeah, hopefully, Robert, I would like to get an answer from him on how he sees the Wanamaker Mile, but he seems like he's having some technical difficulties at the moment. So may have to have him parachute in after a second. But I guess I'm also curious, do we just assume Nuguse is going to lead this thing like he usually does? Or like, is there any world, if you were Nuguse, would you ever consider just backing off and be like, you know what? I always lead you guys out for this. Do it yourself, and I'm going to try to kick you guys down.
Yeah, I asked him about that, and he said he wasn't more interested in being in the lead with 2 laps to go as opposed to when the rabbit drops off. So that does signal to me maybe he's going to do a little bit of a change of tactics there. And he also, the other note was, it's always a big thing about who's going to ask for the pace and what sort of pace do they want. Well, Yared doesn't want it to be as fast. So we'll see if that wins out. It's from what I could tell, he doesn't want it to be a world record race or even like the old world record race. So I think he would want like, let's request 155 and then roll from there, which would make it a whole different dynamic than what we've been seeing the last couple of years.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fine with that. Like we had a world record at Millrose last year and it was awesome, but like it doesn't need to be a world record for it to be a compelling race. Like I think I don't have an issue with that at all. So yeah, it'll be interesting if someone else steps up. Is Kessler feeling himself after last week, and does he want to go for it, or are they content to let it go a little slower? Robert Johnson appears to have joined us again. Robert, who's your favorite in the Wanamaker Mile for the men?
And he's gone.
Okay, I guess not. Well, let's move then.
Someone asked if that means Yared's unsure in his fitness. I wouldn't say that. I think I don't think he thinks he's in world record shape, 345, but I think he also just has been like chasing the record was fun. Now I want to do something else and try to win a different way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move to this women's Wanamaker Mile, because this one's also a really good field. We've got the silver and bronze medalists from the World Championships last year, Dorcas Ewoy and Jessica Hull. We've got the American indoor record holder, Ellie St. Pierre. We've got the American outdoor record holder, Sinclair Johnson. We've got the 3-time defending U.S. indoor/outdoor champion, Nikki Hiltz. Wilma Nielsen's the NCAA champion. Pretty deep, talented field. I would say probably the best that they've ever had in the women's mile. The way I looked at this, I was kind of debating, I don't know, Jessica Hull, like I would have had her as the favorite usually, but she just didn't run well last week. So was that a hiccup or was there something more going on? I kind of discounted her. I was down on Dorcas Ewoy because I know she won in Boston last week, but she like barely beat Sinclair Johnson. And the time wasn't all that fast. It was 4:01 for 1500. So the more I thought about it, I'm like, I think it could be the Nikki Hiltz or Ellie St. Pierre. And Ellie obviously ran great last week, but Nikki, if Nikki's close, they have like the best kick in the US usually. So it kind of also depends like about the rabbiting and what the pace is going to be like. But I kind of feel like an American's going to win this. Or are you bowing down to no, how do you see it? Like, am I off base, or would you go with one of the medalists from last year?
No, I don't think you're off base. I think Hull, she said it was just an off day, and that like training had been going really well, and it was just like not even before the race she didn't feel anything. It was just during the race she's just like, oh, okay, this is bad, and that like she's ready to go. So I guess would think that I just put that one aside. She's unlike last year when she was sick. When she's coming into this healthy. I think. Yeah, Doris Lemngole and Sinclair, I think that was really close, but you'd have to say that Elle St. Pierre and Hull to me would be likely to beat them because I think they looked like they were probably right in 419, 418 shape, which I don't think is going to be good enough to win. But I actually might pick Hull because I do think that was just a weird, maybe an aberrational race, and that it's going to be pretty fast, and I like her chances to I think she's the best of the field when everything's going right.
Yeah, okay, that's good to know. I guess the one thing I would also say about Hull is just like indoors the last 2 years, she hasn't really been as good as she was outdoors. Like she clearly is a lot better in the Northern Hemisphere summer. So if you look, like I think she was like 5th at World Indoors in the 3K in 2024 and was well behind Ellie St. Pierre, and then outdoors she ends up running 350. Last year, Shelby Houlihan beat her at World Indoors in the 3K. And again, she ends up, bronze medal in the 1500 at Worlds. So I guess Shelby was 4th in the 5K, so it's not like she was chop leather either. But I'm just not sure if Jess is as close to her outdoor best as some of these other women might be. So that's going to be interesting to me. Robert, do you have a favorite in this race in the women's mile between Hiltz and St. Pierre, Jess Hull, Dorcas Ewoy?
Ewoy.
Of course you're going with the Kenyan.
I mean, did she not win last week?
Do you watch the race? I mean, it wasn't all that
Yeah.
impressive, but she did win, yes.
Well, then if you're not going to go with her, well, why wouldn't you go with Nikki Hiltz? Nikki Hiltz, a biological female who likes to go by they, them pronouns, prefers to run. I mean, they rarely lose these U.S. type races.
Oh, almost never. But actually, do you know the last time Nikki lost to an American in a 1500 a mile? It was this meet last year. Heather McLean just outleaned Nikki, and Georgia Bell got the win. But yeah, Nikki is usually really hard to beat in these domestic, competitions. So I think that's going to be great. I mean, it's a great measuring stick for Ellie St. Pierre. How does she do against Nikki Hiltz in the 1500? And can any of them beat two of the medalists from last year's global championship? I just think the thing about Ewoy, you don't fluke yourself to running 354 and getting silver at Worlds. Obviously, you have to be in outstanding shape to do that, but she really hadn't done anything to suggest that was coming earlier that season. And maybe she just shows up and says, hey, Boston was my rust buster, and now I'm in really good shape and I run this. But, I just wasn't thoroughly convinced last week.
Okay. When I was editing your article, I mean, I did watch the race, but you implied that Ewoy's win last week was really bad or something. Remind me what happened. That was so. I mean, I had some technical difficulties and was off for about 15 minutes in this podcast, but you have some weird analysis going on. Like the wins by Hocker don't count because they're barely a match. Paul Turgot, for all we know, is just as great as a legend on the track as Haile Gebrselassie because he almost beat Gebrselassie on the track. And Ewoy, now she won last week, but what was wrong with it?
She just didn't look convincing. She won by a little bit over Sinclair Johnson, who Sinclair Johnson was 12th at Worlds or something last year. I just would have thought for someone who's run 2 seconds faster in the 1500 than Sinclair Johnson is a silver medalist behind only Faith Kipyegon, I would have thought that she would have closed faster. Her last lap was 31 something, which was 31 low, which wasn't all that crazy. And, in a 401 race, it's fine. She won. She did what she needed to do to win. And maybe now against better competition this week, we'll see, oh, okay, she was just sort of doing what she had to just get the W. But I didn't come away from that the same way I came away from what Kessler and Myers and Josh Hoey did last week, thinking, wow, those guys are all really in shape and ready to go.
Well, right, but that's why we spent 30 minutes talking about the men's 2 mile, not this race. But I think that, Evan Hatton 3806 on YouTube making a great point here. Sinclair beat Hiltz's winner in the road mile. Everybody knows how I love the road miles. I do think Hiltz, based on her CV, probably deserves to be the favorite here because.
Jess Hull has a much better CV. I'm sorry, that's not even similar resumes. Jess Hull's is much better.
No, I meant what I say.
You said
Jess Hull. Oh no, Jess Hull. And I heard Noah say that she had just had a bad race last week, and I won't ask what that means. But sometimes the Kenyans volunteer what that meant. Once every 28 days. That's all I'm going to say. And I do think that we know that she loves to race. She won the gold at World Cross in the mixed relay. And Ewoy has been placing high in races, but even in college, she wasn't winning races. I think of I think of Hull as someone that's used to winning, pulling these things off. So I guess if I'm going to change my pick, I guess, and maybe say her.
Does Jess Hull win a lot though? I feel like she's usually near the front of these diamond leagues, but.
I think she won more in college than Ewoy did.
Oh, totally. Yeah. In college, she definitely won.
She had the 2K world record and some other stuff. I guess that was more of a setup. Yeah, I think the thing I want to know, I think the road mile, I kind of laugh at that. But then Sinclair she is definitely in really good shape. And she's kind of shown this before in indoors. So she might be a little bit sharper. Might be taking world indoors a little bit more seriously than other some of the competitors. So I do think she is for real.
And we need a list. We need to start compiling the list. When the calendar turns to February, we start compiling the list of people who are skipping, quote unquote, skipping World Indoors and not planning on trying out and or going. I will be the official, the John's instituted the Rojo test. No, this will be the Rojo test. Is your excuse good? And in an off year like this, when there's no outdoor championship, I really don't have good excuses for most of these people. Like, who do we know that's already going to skip, or should we hold that for another show?
Well, I'm going to let you get some good piece of news. Is it sounds like Josh Kerr is not going to skip. Speaking with him, he said something like, "I'm planning on doing World Indoors. That's my call," or something. So,
and I know I was giving Josh a sort of a bit of a hard time when we were comparing his resume to Cole Hocker, but that to me was the most exciting thing. If we go back to the 2 mile, reading John's preview, was hearing Danny Mackey say, "Look, this guy was in better shape than ever last year at Worlds. We didn't get to see it because his calf exploded. And I think he thinks he's even better. So he's more motivated." I mean, Josh Kerr, you talk about near misses. I mean, some people think like he doesn't race often. He had one of the greatest 2024s we've ever seen. He showed up and rocked Millrose games. He went to World Indoors on home soil and won the gold there. And then he showed up at the Olympics and he took down Ingebrigtsen. He took down Nuguse. If it wasn't for somebody by the name of Cole Hocker, he would have had the perfect season, and all of this talk would be viewed completely differently. But he is a big meet performer. He knows how to peak well. Most people, I would be concerned, okay, they haven't raced, they need a sharpener, but this guy's got a track record of producing at this meet.
Yeah, you forgot the Bowerman Mile as well in 2024. He showed up, hadn't raced for a couple months, and then well, actually, I think he might have done some tune-up one or whatever, but that was like his big one, and he shows up and he wins that as well. And yeah, he would also have the Olympic record. He'd be a 2-time global 1500 champion, an era where no one seems to win that thing more than once. So, okay, I mean, his legacy, yeah, definitely would have vaulted up a level, Robert, but I still think similar to Hocker. We didn't get you to weigh in on the men's Wanamaker Mile, Robert, because you were away. Who is your favorite in that race out of the trio of Hobbs Kessler, Yared Nuguse, and Cam Myers?
I said a few weeks ago, Cam Myers. I'm tempted to change that because of, the 2K was impressive. What did I say? John converted that to in the mile, 3:46. But I think that, I think that Myers is a bigger talent than Hobbs Kessler. They were 0.05 apart, right? Last summer at one of these races? No, that was
Cam Myers and Hoey, right?
Yeah, it was Myers and Hoey. But I just think that Myers has looked amazing. I mean, 3:49 in the mile, 7:27. I am concerned about the finish. Like my concern about Kessler was, does he have the dog in him? Does he have the closing gears to win a race? He saw it last weekend, but was not that a world record would be fool's gold, but what did it look more impressive because it was against Fisher in a 2 mile? I mean, we got a 10K guy, in a 2K. I don't think it was, because splits don't lie. We saw the 13:0 final 100. It was extremely impressive. And I'm tempted to pick. I've got no problem if you're picking Kessler over Myers, because Myers has never won a race like this. But hey, I got to stick with my original thinking from last summer of, hey, Kessler's a good runner. He made the Olympic team in 2 teams. I know he's 5th in the Olympics, and everyone's saying 2028 is his year. I don't see that, because I think these younger guys like Laros and Myers are better than Kessler. And in the end, we won't care who's better in 2026. We'll care about who's better in 2028, but it's kind of fun to get a preview this weekend.
Yeah. Looking down the list a little bit, I mean, another event that caught my eye was this women's 3,000. Jose Andrews is a late scratch. Did you hear anything about that? Did they give any explanation?
No, she wasn't at the press conference. The other one, just like what we were just talking about, Pierre, she wasn't at the press conference, and I'd have a little concern about her racing, because they said it was due to personal issue, family matter with her involving her father. So just still planning on racing, but I'm not 100% sure she'll be there based on that. I did not hear anything on Josette particular.
Okay, because I'm looking at this 3K. You have a few pros. Dilgy Taylor's group seems to be hitting it. Lexi Halliday-Lowry, Sadie Sargent, Courtney Waymont, Riley Chamberlain of BYU, who has anchored the winning DMR at NCAA's the last 2 years. She's running it. But the two big names here are the women who went 1-2 at NCAA cross country in November: Doris Lemngole of Alabama, Jane Hedengren of BYU, and I would have to think it's going to come down to those two again, most likely. And I also think that it's probably going to be fast. You don't fly across the country to run the Millrose games in this big spectacle and just to let it go tactical. So I would think that Caitlin Tuohy's 8:35 NCAA record is certainly under threat. Robert, are we just rolling with Lemngole because she beat Hedengren by 13 seconds last time out? I mean, she ran a 4:32 miles. She was only third when she raced last week at Clemson, but she's still the favorite for you. Or what about Nozomi Tanaka, your Japanese favorite who's run 8:33 in the 3K?
Tanaka, didn't she look terrible in some race recently? She is the Japanese record holder, 15:3005. I mean, I was looking at her PR. She's a 14:29 woman. I mean, no, I think Tanaka has no chance. Look, I think Lemngole was third in the mile last week, you're saying?
Yes.
And Jane hasn't raced since the new year?
Correct.
I think Jane, it's possible she takes her down, but just because if these women were smart, they ran BU in December, right?
Hedengren did. Lemngole did not.
Okay. How are they possibly in shape and ready to roll like an NCAA record right now? Like I don't get that. From a coaching standpoint, I really do not understand that. If it was me and I ripped a race on December, I probably would not run it all for 1 week and would run every other day for the next week. So we're close to Christmas then. And then I would gradually be building up. I would not have one of these talents running this race ready to hammer it. I mean, I might for Doris Lemngole if I'm at Alabama, to be honest. Like, my job is to score points and to win the national title if I'm the coach at Alabama. But I think BYU, Dilgy Taylor has a different thing. I mean, let's be honest. Like, her role here is to potentially guide Jane Hedengren for the next decade. And honestly, get her in a situation where she can sign with the swoosh and they both can benefit. So, but just that being said, like, I don't know, like, who if they're both on their game, yes, I would think that the Doris would win. And actually, the fact that Doris did not run the BU meet means me think she probably took her time off. She's working way back. She's already had one prep race. Actually, I'm picking her again. If Diljeet was smart, she had Jane run that NCAA record, take a couple weeks off. She's going to throw in this meet, get the 3K qualifier out of the way, but she should not be able to beat Doris Lemngole in this race.
I mean, maybe that is the case. Maybe they just said, hey, we've taken some time away. You need to get a qualifier. Go to Millrose. It'll be a good experience for like going through a big time race and what that's like. Don't worry about the time or if you're not close, like just go out there. I mean, she's going to have to race at some point. You wouldn't want to just going into NCAAs without racing at all before the middle of March. So yeah, maybe they're approaching it a little low key, but obviously that with her credentials, having already broken the 5K record this season, people like me are naturally going to look at that collegiate record and wonder if it's possible. But I think it's totally fine if she's like, oh, yeah, we've got a long season ahead of us and we don't need to be in NCAA record shape right now.
There was a fun thread on the message board from 2019 on the message that I started. I've forgotten about this, but I said, I think after analyzing it all, this is when Caitlin Tuohy and Nico Young were seniors in high school. I was like, you have to say the bigger pro prospect is, and then I had a lengthy explanation. And the conclusion was Nico Young. People were shocked that I came to that conclusion.
Well, wait, you had a lengthy explanation? I assumed your explanation would just have been he's a boy and she's a girl.
Well, I said Tuohy's won 3 NXN titles. She's set all these records, yes, but my main point is she was not as dominant as a senior as she was before. And yeah, I mean, we have a track record of the women not developing. It was more, it seemed to me like to be a more, you made it sound rather simple that everyone can conclude that.
Well, no, I feel like that's usually your logic, but if there was more nuance, I do think there is a little bit more nuance to that. And I think your point there about her senior year not being quite as strong maybe had some legs to it. Though obviously both had outstanding collegiate careers as well. And Tui actually won more NCAA titles than Nico Young did. Okay, any other races catch you guys fancy? I mean, we've got Cooper Lutkenhaus in the 600. We've got a potential American record in the women's 1,000. And then we've got Brazier, Hoppel, Kean McPhillips, and Mohamed Atoy, and Colin Solomon, actually, in the men's 800. Any takes or observations on any of those?
I was kind of surprised you said Cooper Lutkenhaus you thought was the favorite in the 600. Like, I know he ran 142 last year, but like, I don't know, man. The 600, the guy who was runner up last year ran pretty damn quick. That was the 5th fastest time in world history. Are we sure Cooper's in that type of shape?
Well, Noah, you saw him last week. What do you make of him?
I think he's in good shape. And I have just the history of Isaiah Jewett is a lot of tying up the last 100. And I feel like that's ideal for Cooper Lutkenhaus if he starts feeding off the energy, and we know how fast he can close these races. So I actually do like him in this spot because I think what's going to happen is they're going to go out crazy fast at the front. He's going to get slot in. It's going to be strung out. And then the last 300, I think he's going to be piling up bodies. And maybe that's where he'll Jewett locks up or something. And then Cooper, I think he can run. I would be surprised if he's not in the 114, 115 range. I know some people were saying 116, whatever. I feel like we got a little skewed from how slow the New Balance one was based on how they ran it. But I think this one's going to be a little bit more aggressive. And I think it kind of works to his strengths. It's going to be, he'll run more even than the other guys. Yeah.
I mean, he did mention in that interview with you that he felt like sort of aerobically, this was the strongest he's ever been. And this is an anaerobic event, the 600 primarily. So, but I also know he's got that great last 200. So I think,
yeah, I mean, he is like a 46 guy, right? Or 45. So for a 600, if he can go through in 48, then he's good.
Yeah. You never quite know where everyone's at, but I just like, this guy's the best talent in the race and he's in good shape. So I'm going with him. Yeah, I don't think he's talking about
he's just talking I don't think Frazier's in. One thing is from talking to him, I wouldn't expect anything crazy from him. So I wouldn't pick him for sure. It seems like he's probably in like 145 shape and just will be content to run a better race than last week.
Yeah, I think the positioning for him was it's always tricky in the 600 when you get a bunch of good guys in the race. But looking at that one, I'd probably have McPhillips as the favorite. And then, Atoy is also a 142 guy coming over fresh from Europe. So, I think he raced last week, but he's coming over from Europe to run this thing. So
I was talking to John Keller to get the conversion from the 800 one. He got like 114, 115.0. So it's just interesting to me. I guess I haven't seen Lutkenhaus race enough. I'm just used to that big close. I'm like, well, what does he do in a 6? So it's kind of interesting.
I say in 400s, he is like very much the guy who goes out slow and then comes back. So that's probably, I guess, where I think he'll go out in like 48 something and then have a really good last lap.
Okay. Well, that is the track news. That's your Millrose Games preview. I will be getting on the train Sunday morning, assuming there's no big storm here in Boston, and heading down for boots on the ground coverage alongside with Noah from the Armory. Going to be a great meet. Make sure you go into our homepage every day, letsrun.com, or our YouTube channel. We'll have interviews from today and also from Sunday after the races. And then we'll be back with our regular podcast on Tuesday to break down all the action from 2026 Millrose, discuss any potential world records. If you are not a member of the Let'sRun.com supporters club and you're listening to this live on a Friday afternoon, maybe you should consider joining. If you like what you heard, Let'sRun.com/subscribe. You get our Friday 15 podcast every week and a bunch of other good stuff, including free t-shirt. I'm wearing one of them right now. This is a World Cross edition. Super comfortable, most comfortable t-shirt you'll ever wear. And if you're on the West Coast, Weldon, where is the meetup for the Let'sRun.com San Francisco watch party of the Millrose games?
It's a Timeout Tavern in San Francisco. It's like Divisadero and Bush, I think. So 1 to 3 p.m. if you're on the West Coast, come on out. Apparently a former Boston Marathon champion is coming.
How come we don't have one in Baltimore? Why doesn't someone organize one for me? There was a Colorado All-American wanted to hang out.
Well, if you want to organize
why
it,
doesn't someone organize one for me? I think you got your answer there. You're just waiting on someone else to do it, Robert. You got to step up.
And that the Sha'Carri was our legal segment, but did you guys see the Grand Slam track update today?
Oh, well, I saw the statement from the Association of Athletics Managers. And I mean, we talked about this on the podcast a little bit. They're essentially saying you shouldn't be putting funds towards stating the loan they got from Winners Alliance. They're saying you shouldn't be putting those funds towards staging a 2026 season when people are still waiting on $30 million that you haven't paid out from last year. But I will make the same point that we made last time. Like, Grand Slam track doesn't really have any great options. Like, if you want to get paid your full amount, they need a way to generate revenue. And the only way they can do that is have another season. So if you don't want them to have a 2026 season, they're not going to get any more money coming in to pay those back.
Well, not only that, John, the statement I couldn't believe the statement. The statement made no logical sense to me. The statement very much admitted that because the payments to the athletes are made in the last 90 days before they declare bankruptcy, that can be clawed back. So if the season doesn't go on, if I was a secured creditor, I would try to claw the money back from the athletes. So to me, the idea that they're going to get paid a penny for 2025 is ludicrous. The season, the only hope that they have is if there's a new season, they can make more money in 2026. Why would they bother to go back to 2025? But this whole thing it's just cosplaying or whatever. Like, it's a joke. There's not going to be a 2026 season. The lawyers are just getting rich at this point. I can't believe anyone's talking. This to me is crazy. The whole thing. Like, who would invest one penny? I think it was like just Winners Alliance, because they're from the professional tennis tour. They didn't want to totally screw over the athletes, so they put in some money. And just, can this thing just go away so we have to stop talking about it?
It's interesting. I hadn't seen that. I hadn't read the full statement. The Athletic has an article linked to it. But yeah, they do mention how these payments could be clawed back, and then it says, but some of this stuff I think is factually wrong. It says the payments were made within 90 days of the filing, and they're subject to clawback. Once returned to bankruptcy court, these funds would be used to pay off secured creditors, with whatever remains to be divided among unsecured creditors. I honestly don't think that would happen. The only reason the athletes got paid 50%, is because Winners Alliance ponied up another $5 million to actually pay the athletes off 50%. Now, the other creditors could say, we deserve some of that money. So there could be some legal issue there. But I don't think there's any way the court would then say, the only secured creditor is Winners Alliance. There's no way to say, oh, wait, you're going to get your own money back for yourself and you pay the athletes nothing. No, I don't think that's an actual scenario.
Right. Well, I think the managers are a little worried about that. And I get their frustration, and I get their duty is to get their athletes paid. And they're saying, look, if you guys are trying to focus on staging a new season, that means our athletes aren't getting paid, and they also might be at risk of losing what they already got paid. Like, they're frustrated, and they're trying to stick up for their athletes, but I'm just not sure they can do much about it the way this whole thing has proceeded at this point. And what they can do is make their voices heard and just say, hey, we're sticking up for you guys. And that's what they're doing.
Oh, I just saw also there's some details. Did you guys see the hotel bill? I hadn't seen this before in the bankruptcy, so the Athletic noticed this. The W Hotel in Los Angeles is owed $350,000. And that's one hotel in Los Angeles. They didn't even have a meet in Los Angeles. So maybe they're flying athletes out. I don't know. Also, I'm surprised a hotel would book rooms on credit. Like, they wouldn't require a credit card or something. But what was that for? But it just shows that.
Oh, I assume that was for the LA meet. They probably already agreed to pay for the rooms. Whether they went
well, they also had this media summit out in LA in the fall last year, and when they had them in for the Rams game, so that might have been some of it. Yeah.
But we're sort of wondering how they blew through like $20 million before putting on a meet. I think somewhere close to that. But a lot of these, or maybe the pre-book travel, going to the Rams suite, all that stuff really adds up. They spent so crazy, it's nuts. But also the managers want the athletes from last year to be paid before they have new athletes, which everyone agrees with in principle. But legally now they're not allowed to pay anyone. Like a bankruptcy plan has to be filed, and which is
due today, actually.
Due today or tomorrow. I think by the end of the month. So maybe it's today. So we should probably go look for that. But nobody cares about legal stuff unless it's TMZ type stuff.
Well, anyway, that's your track fix. Thanks everyone for tuning in. And yeah, can't wait for this meet on Sunday. Gold appears to be extra grumpy today. Wow. I guess I had my regular cup of coffee. So
thank you guys.
It is kind of fun to think. No, it's fun to think about. Someone saying Kessler will win. He's emerging as top guy now. I mean, like on Monday morning, we could be thinking differently. Is Kessler for real? Like, could he be a guy to really be looking out for 2028? John, I could hear you guys when I had the technical problems. Your talk on, I mean, to me, Ethan Strand and Wolf, are they making a jump at altitude? And this Strand 3K is right in his wheelhouse.
Right. No, this is perfect distance for him. So no, that's what we're talking about, like Kerr and Hocker and something. And the story might be someone totally different on Monday morning. And that's what's amazing about this meet. And that's why it's cool having the big guns race early in the season, because you just don't know. So yeah, that'll be great. Meets on NBC, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and enjoy the weekend, everyone. Go Pats.
Go Pats.